and we are officially live. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go.
So thank you for joining us here today and celebrating this wonderful holiday. I think it's the 12th year celebration. So it's an absolute pleasure to have all of you here with us in person, kind of joining our pretty much our first in-person live stream, which is truly exciting. And to everyone watching online, really happy to have you here as well. So this layout is going to be pretty simple. It's going to be an open conversation between us and our special guest, and then we'll field some questions from the folks here in person, as well as the individuals watching online. My brother Brian is trying to tune into one of the 4 or 5 different live streams that we have going on, and he's going to write down some of your questions and bring them up to me so we can ask. So it's going to be pretty fun, pretty simple. We have about an hour to, allow you to get to know us a little bit more and maybe our endeavors in the fine writing world. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our special guests. First, we have Kerry Yeager of Kenro Industries, aka Mr. Fountain Pen Day himself. Give him a big round of applause.
Thank you.
Kerry is a great friend to our family, and he contributes so much to Atlas and really has helped us build the foundation to kind of what you see now. So, Kerry, absolute pleasure having you here.
Thank you, my brother.
Much love.
Appreciate it.
And then now we have another special guest who has never been here to Atlas before, and let me tell you, he is amazing with what he does. Big influencer in the world of pen writing, and many of you already know very well who he is. That is Brad Dowdy, aka the Pen Addict, here in the flesh. Let's give it up.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So before we begin, we just want to have our guests give a introduction about them. So for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with who they are, you can get to know them a little bit more. So Kerry, let's start with you.
Oh, I love me first. Thanks so much. Appreciate that. So my name is Kerry Yeager. I reside in New York. Don't hold that against me for those who would. Appreciate that. My endeavor, I'll give it quick and short before we go into details. So I started Fountain Pens probably in 2011, somewhere around there, 2010. I was in retail for a long time. And as my endeavors went through and I decided I liked fountain pens, I got deeper and deeper. Times change. We've seen that in the last few years, right? So things change. And I decided the second half of my life, as one end of retail was coming to a close, I decided I wanted to do something I loved, and I waited it out a little bit, and now I work for Kenro Industries, who is a distributor for fine writing instruments. And as luck may have it, or fate, it was fate, we bought Esterbrook literally a year after I started there. So I went from being a pen fanatic to working for a pen distributor to now working for a company there where we make pens, where we do everything from end to end. Frustrating, but the greatest satisfaction when you're a pen enthusiast.
Thank you, Kerry.
Okay.
Fantastic. I've heard that a lot, and it's never boring. And I got to tell you, your retail experience has actually helped us a lot. When Kerry's here in the shop for his events, he's always redisplaying our stuff. Like, hey, this should be here. And I know you got the experience, so we greatly appreciate that and all your insight.
I appreciate you not getting offended me re-merchandising.
Not at all. Perfect. Thank you. Brett, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm the only one that will tell you everything looks terrible. Y'all have to be nice, but my name's Brad. I write a blog called The Pen Addict. I've been doing that for 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've been podcasting for 12 years almost. The Pen Addict podcast, we recorded episode 588 this week. So we've been doing this. Thank you. It's a true joy to be part of a community that's like this. Like, this is not normal in the best way possible. Like, this is just such an open, welcoming, fun, sharing community. I'm excited to be a part of it. Like Kerry, I had a job before I got into the stationery business full time. I was an IT guy for 15 years, and I started writing a blog online in 2007 about Japanese gelling pens. That's what I was into. I hated fountain pens. That's how the story goes. And now I'm here at Atlas Stationers to celebrate the 12th Fountain Pen Day anniversary, and I could not be more thankful.
Awesome. Thank you, Brad. And thank you again again for flying out here all the way from Atlanta. So let's give both of them another round of applause. So I'm not going to introduce myself. I'm sure many of you know who I am, but we basically we're so grateful to be put in an opportunity to have special guests and share their story. And, you know, the community is built upon individuals such as these two who can help relay information and knowledge and spread the passion and joy for fountain pens. So it's exciting to be able to get together and do something like this. As I'm sure everyone has seen, today has been very hectic, but a good type of hectic. So thank you for everyone showing support and taking advantage of Fountain Pen Day, the celebration, and you know, spreading the joy. Before we open up to kind of a public Q&A session, I just wanted to ask a few questions to both of you as well. Super simple. I didn't tell you ahead of time what that question would be because you guys already answered the one question I told you I was going to ask. But I think we're all curious to know, what was your first fountain pen? I have mine here, but I will go last. So, Brad, we'll start with you this time.
All right, so there's actually two. I remember the first fountain pen review I did was a Platinum Preppy, the 02, which is the extra fine model, right? I can't remember if it's 02 or 03, in blue black ink. And I remember I got along with it okay. Like, I rave about the Preppy now, and I didn't quite understand what the Preppy meant at the time. And like, this is like literally like 15 years ago. And so like, I kind of swore off fountain pens for a little bit right after that. Like, it was fine. It just didn't do anything for me. And then it was a Lamy Safari that actually somehow turned the corner for me. I bought a Lamy Safari. That was my first like real fountain pen where I bought it on purpose. Like, I should have a fountain pen to try. It was a Lamy Safari. It was one of the like chartreuse yellow special editions way back in the day. So yeah, that was it.
And look where you're at now.
Look where we're at now.
Awesome. Carrie, how about yourself?
So my first fountain pen, after I finally delved into the forums and did what most guys do, and that is research, research, research. Then we contemplate, then we decide. So my first fountain pen, funny enough, it was a Rosetta, it's called, and it's from, hold on, iPen store. But they did, Rosetta is a pen that they only made, and it was exclusive to them. And it was a larger pen, and I have larger hands. So that was my first fall into it, and I just liked the colors of it. I thought it looked it was the mosaic. So it had this really, kind of like a look of almost like a kind of botanical garden Estabrook kind of look, which I favor to this day.
Nice plug.
You know, so, you know, but, and it was a stub nib actually at the time. And
It's a fancy one to start.
The funny story is, so I started with stub nibs and I worked my way all the way down to an extra fine, super extra fine to this day. And that is my by far favorite. So that was my step into it and my first fountain pen.
Awesome. What is your nib preference?
Extra fine as well. Like, generally the finer the better. The opposite ends of the spectrum. Like, I don't do a lot of medium and broad. We're either like extra fine or we're getting to like the stubs.
Sure. And do either of you guys use flex nibs at all?
Not really. Based on my writing style, right? I'm a block printer, right?
Yeah.
So there is, you know, it's a tougher time for me to use a flex. I'll use like a firmer soft nib to kind of get that line variation in my writing, but I'm never doing it for the flex.
Gotcha.
And for me, well, see, unlike Brad, who, for those who don't know, has unbelievably neat, crystal clear, annoyingly good handwriting, mine has always been sloppy. So I tried to hide it, and that's why I kind of did a stub nib in the beginning. But I do like flex nibs, and I like them for my signature. I think they add more character to it and kind of more feeling to what I'm writing. So for me, I get it. But this guy just writes too neat, so I understand his plight.
Yeah, it takes practice to write with a flex nib, so I just hadn't had the time. Hadn't thought about it. I like my handwriting too much.
Yeah, my handwriting is really bad, so that's why you guys don't see me write. If you ever see on
and
our
that's
social,
okay.
And exactly, that's okay. As long as I can read it, that's all that matters. But when you see really nice handwriting on our social media platforms, that's not me.
See, look
Just
at it
to make it clear.
But look at it this way: you practice, and in reality, you can always say, "I practiced to be a doctor."
Yes. Yes. And you know what? I respect that doctors only need to write their signature, I'm assuming. So that's fantastic. You know, in case you guys were interested, I actually brought out my very first fountain pen. I don't know who knows the story, but I graduated from Illinois State University, otherwise known as Harvard of the Midwest. It's my my nice little go-to line there. But my brother actually gifted me this when I graduated. I think it's coming from this one.
Okay.
Yeah. He gifted me this when I graduated. It's a Cross Peerless, one of the 125th anniversary. It's like the platinum on platinum. And this was before, like 2 days before I actually came to work at Atlas. And I had no idea what this was. And then eventually, as I started becoming more familiarized with the hobby and realizing, you probably should start with a Lamy Safari, I'm sitting here and I'm very irresponsible, and I have a $500 pen, not knowing you can't leave shimmer ink in it. The first bottle he got me was like Jacques Herbin, like one of the shimmering ones, and I left it in here for like 2 years. And to be honest, I cleaned it out and it works perfectly. But it's amazing because along the journey, there's so much you learn, and there's no right or wrong way to collect or really to figure out what you like. It's just the goal is to start somewhere. So it's really fun that we all have slightly different stories of how we started, and we have different nib preferences. I like fines and mediums, but I get to have fun with them all since I work here. So cool. I think that was just the intro question. If you guys have anything you'd like to bring up, any topics, now would be the time. Otherwise, more than happy to open it up to the public and see who wants to pick our brains a little bit.
Yeah, I think let's open it up.
Okay, who wants to ask the first question? Don't all move too quickly now.
Yeah.
Absolutely, go ahead.
So I have a few pens that have Yovo and Bach steel nibs. But I don't have any pens, and you don't really hear, at least I don't hear that much about Yovo or Bach gold nibs. They seem to be kind of either rare or just untalked about very much. Lots of skill. So I'm just wondering if either of you can talk about your experience with either of those gold pens, what pens that have Yovo or Bach recommend.
Sure, and before one of us answers, if we can kind of summarize or repeat the question for the audience watching virtually.
Yeah, so the question is about the general usage of Bach and Yovo nibs and the lack of usage of those same gold nibs for those same brands. And I just want to say, before we really get into those questions, if y'all want to defer a lot of those questions to me so y'all don't get in trouble, I'm glad to take that for you, because I might be able to speak a little bit more freely.
That's very true. We got to show love to every brand. I love it.
So I'm glad to answer these questions offline as well. I just think it's a lot of the times you see these steel nibs from Yovo and Bach, and they're such large companies, and you can speak to this better than I can, that the price points of these manufacturers that are making these pens, they want to start people somewhere, right? So there's a starting point, and those are such good quality nibs that you find in these pens, and they do such a good job with their steel nibs. I prefer them over a lot of their gold nibs. And you also have the price premium, which I think is an obvious thing. But yeah, I just think, I don't know, I just really, and you can probably think of it better than me, just dealing with a lot of the manufacturers, say I don't want to put you on the spot, but I love Montegrappa steel nibs. They use Yovo steel nibs. I could not ask for a better nib in my pen. I don't need a gold nib. He probably doesn't want to hear that, right? Because, I would like to maybe ramp it up a little bit. But when they do such a good job at that price point, it's hard to beat.
Yeah. So, and the answer to that also is you have to remember that Yovo and Bach, they make nibs that are branded for other brands specifically. Like Montegrappa converted over on their steel nibs to Yovo. They also converted over on their gold nibs to Yovo. So their 14 and 18 karat gold nibs are now Yovo nibs. And that took about 3 years to do, meaning they're completely made separately at Yovo and branded for Montegrappa, specifically the engraving and everything that's on them. But for the number 8 nib, when it comes to that 18 karat gold, that giant nib that we all look at, because it's very Mont Blanc 149-ish, and it's got that flat ebonite feed, that is a specialty nib from Bach. So they're still having Bach make those nibs. Each one is kind of finding their way as they navigate through everything. And what Brad said is right. The steel nibs are just becoming so popular. And I think in America, it's more popular because they're easy to customize. And so many of the nib meisters out there have customized them hundreds or even thousands and thousands of times over. So they understand how they work. They understand the mechanics of it. They understand how to make the ink flow better, greater, work with the nib tipping, work with the feeds. And the last thing I'll say on that is if you want to see why a Yovo nib may be wetter, not wetter so much, but more controlled in its wetness, is if you pull your nib and feed on a pen that you know how to do this with, don't do it if you don't know how. Please, everyone. But if you do, and you pull a Bach nib, and you pull a Yovo nib, and you look at the feeds, a Yovo nib has what I call fish eyes, or fly eyes. And there's these tiny little holes in the very tip of it, and they act like ink pots. And they're actually reserved ink. So when you're writing, if you're writing really fast, that nib will draw from those. And it's just a brilliant design. And that's what helps them keep consistency. And the overall experience for people that are just starting out, perfect. It really does. And it's why a company like us, like for us, we own and manufacture Esterbrook. When we started Esterbrook, we only had fine and medium nibs for the first year because they were in such demand. And we said it was worth the wait. It took a year. It took almost 2 years to get stub nibs, but it's worth the wait. And that's just how it goes. Great question.
And now Esterbrook offers like 50 nibs.
We offer custom nibs. I know.
All phenomenal. All phenomenal. Quick question. In terms of percentages, this might be more geared towards you from a manufacturer, distributor standpoint. What percentage of brands do you think use Yovo or Bach nibs? Is it like 70% of the total brands? You think 80%?
You have to think about companies that also make their own nibs. Besides
In-house.
Schmidt nibs and then nibs that are made in China, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, a random guess, I would say probably 50%. 50% are using those two brands. And if you add Schmidt in there, it's probably 60%.
Absolutely. Yeah, it seems like Yovo is the name you hear the most. And around the shop, that's the name that we hear the most as well.
Yeah.
So fantastic question. Anyone else?
From a retailer and distribution point of view, how would you guys say the increase in fountain pen use and users have been since you started Atlas and you've been at Kenro?
You want me to? Well, I'll speak going back before you.
Sure.
I mean,
I think you have a little more experience than me. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the question was, how have fountain pens grown in the last, let's say 10 years? Is that a good demographic? So in the last 10 years, how have we seen fountain pens grow? So from my perspective, not just Kenro, but from my personal perspective, I have seen from the pen shows going back 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you had guys in fishing vests and they sold vintage pens, and that's kind of what they did. And they traded back and forth. Modern pens weren't as prominent. And that coin has flipped. Millennials have come into play. And people between 25 and 35, and that 40 range has really crept up. Okay, why? Because they've realized that in a digital age, there is nothing like writing with a pen. And I think what really turned the corner was that 2.5 year period that no one wants to talk about, but people were stuck at home, and I saw more people finding old journals, old notebooks, things from their grandparents, great-grandparents, and they realized that they were reading the history of their family. And in a digital world, that digital doesn't stand the test of time. They also can't see how they wrote. Some of them couldn't read what was written because it was in cursive. That's a whole nother argument. But I think that really made people want to do it more. It's more creative. It's more, whether you're sketching, journaling, doodling, scratching on your paper like you did in high school when you had nothing else to do. I think fountain pens have really turned the corner from being 30% of the sales probably in 2015 from a distributor point of view to where we sell probably 70% fountain pens. In the last 10 years. It has not flipped, just double. It's gone from, I would say, 30% to 70% in fountain pens. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think Carrie spoke on a lot of great points. For us here at Atlas, before the pandemic, we had a lot of rollerball and ballpoint sales because of the demographic here in Chicago. A lot of executives, lawyers, or people who maybe just wanted a status piece or a really nice fine writing instrument, right? Maybe they're writing a lot of signatures or signing a lot of deals, whatever the case may be. Post-pandemic, we started seeing a huge switch into which I don't know our exact numbers, but it's got to be close to 70% as well. The vast majority of people buying pens from us are buying fountain pens. And what's even crazier, which we're finding now, is the inks have really taken off. I wasn't really, into pens when I'm sure the only colors you could get were like blue, black, red, green, and brown, maybe purple. But I do know now that the amount of inks offered is incredibly challenging to keep up with. And basically, you got to have inks that shimmer. You got to have inks that sheen. You got to have inks that change colors, do whatever, because that's what people are actually collecting now, and they can use it for more than just fine writing. Maybe they're using it for art or whatnot. What else I found, too, is people love the shape of the bottles. The glass bottles and the packaging really will encourage people to buy, which makes sense. But, yeah, the vast majority are all fountain pens for us. So, fantastic question.
Yeah. Hold on. 8-bottle shape. You said that. So let me ask. He's laughing as I'm laughing. How many inks do you own that you bought it for the bottle?
Most of them.
All right, so we're being all honest here. So let me turn the mic. Yes, I would have to agree. I have bought so many inks because of the ink bottle design and its ingenuity, and it's just, it grabs you.
They're cool to collect. I mean, even if you aren't using it, you put it on a bookshelf or you display them. When the bottle is empty, it honestly looks even cooler. We used to collect a couple and put them on our shelves, but then we realized we'd have way too many. So, I haven't done that in a while, but awesome. Awesome question. Anyone else?
Yeah, that's my point.
Sure.
So for Brad, have you been trying the pens that you brought that you were showing on Twitch?
Yeah, so the question is, I posted a picture on Instagram, said, hey, this is the kit of pens I'm bringing to Atlas Stationer. So the question is, have people been trying the pens? I've been specifically asked, okay, where are the pens? So yes. So what I try to do when I travel, go to pen shows, is try to bring a mixture of things that people ask the most questions about. And a lot of times these are things that people may not have had the ability to use, if they can't get out to a pen show, or, this is their first time coming to Atlas Stationers for Fountain Pen Day, but they hear about these things online, or their friend has recommended a pen. So I always try to bring a mixture of pens that I find interesting, pens that people want to experience for the first time, maybe a nib grind that people have heard about, something to try, because my biggest belief in this whole thing that we do is education and helping other people to figure out what they really want in a pen, or what they really want in an ink, or what they really want in a paper. So that's what I care about the most. So anytime I can bring things like that to help and have a little show and tell, I wish I could bring all my pens every time I traveled. So I can't do that. So I try to bring some that are interesting. And yes, I've definitely been asked about the pens that I brought, and people have been checking them out.
We're all dying to know, how many pens do you have?
The wife is watching. Be careful.
Yeah, that's it's an unanswerable question, right?
Yes, very fair.
We don't count.
Yeah, we don't count, we don't track, we definitely don't write down how much we paid for pens in a list. Nothing you can add up in an Excel spreadsheet to get it to a number. No one should do that. That's, if you take anything away, don't track your spending. So I will say I'm trying to get down to a core 100 fountain pens that I love. And that's an obscene number when you say that out loud. And you think about it, you try to process this, because the next question is, well, how do you use so many of those pens? And I'll readily admit, there might be a year or two between some of these pens that I use. There's just no doubt. But I want to make sure the pens that I do have, I have for a reason, right? They were important to me. They meant something to me. There was a reason that I bought them. In my position, sometimes they're a good reference point. So I get to use lots of excuses in my job. I got to review that pen, I should keep it now. So yeah, I'd say I'm trying to get down to a good core 100 fountain pens, but it's not twice that amount, but it's too many. It's a lot. And that doesn't count roller balls, anything like that. So.
I think those are rookie numbers.
Yeah. Oh, there are people in this building who will overrun that number by a good amount. So.
Let's ask from the crowd, if you're comfortable, just shout out, how many pens do you own?
used to have about 500.
500. Okay,
500.
impressive.
Retro still?
Yeah.
Retros, you probably got a million.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
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 That's incredible. 1,000 retros. Great pens. Great pens. Absolutely love it. So fun. Excellent question. Brian, anyone else from online?
Another one is Brad. I love your edit Slack. How did you come up with the idea?
That's a great question. Boy, I don't know that I've ever answered this question, but the very specific reason was that I didn't want to run a forum. Yeah, I'm sorry. So yes, so everyone hears the question. The question was very simple. Why did you start a Slack? So for those not familiar with Slack, it's basically like a community group where people can come and speak and share with other people about a topic. In this case, pens, stationery, everything related to that. So it's basically just an online community. I know Brendan started a Discord. You can talk about that in just a second. But I really wanted something more simple than a forum that could be sprawling and, unreadable and untrackable. And it turns out what I've built is sprawling and unreadable and untrackable. But it's a lot simpler than a forum. So that literally the impetus for the Slack was I don't want a forum, but I want a place where people can get together and just say, hey, what pen are you using? And it turned into like this community thing, which is a term we hear a lot today. And, while y'all are here. So yeah, why don't you elaborate on the Discord, because that's related to this.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's similar in a lot of ways. So are any of you in our Discord channel currently? Okay, so a few of you. Excellent. Those of you watching online, let us know in the chat if you're a part of the Discord server. So basically, we had a very similar thought on how can we bring the community or the supporters of Atlas into a group all under one roof where they can communicate with, Brian and I directly. They can see updates around the shop, new releases, talk amongst each other, share stuff that they've purchased, even if it's from elsewhere. There's other pen shops out there. We don't mind if you cheat on us. Don't worry. But basically, it's grown quickly. We're actually about to eclipse 500 members in about 2 months. So everyone's been very cordial, and I'm very happy that there hasn't been much moderation needed. But essentially, it's just an environment where you're surrounded by other individuals who share the same passion. They get excited about certain releases. We have affiliates of Atlas who are in the server as well. So if you want to talk to them about maybe their experiences or things they purchased and posted onto their platforms, you can. So it's just a way that everyone can basically come together in one spot. I'm sure most of you are on multiple different social media platforms: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. It is just so hard to keep up with all of it. So this is hopefully a way for all of us to kind of group together under one platform. And before, if you wanted to talk about Atlas or Atlas related things, you really either had to do it in private by reaching out to us or leaving a comment on one of our posts. So this was an idea of ours to help inspire immediate conversation and instant messaging, if you will, in which people have that opportunity. So if you're interested in joining, we have all the links in all of our social media platform bios. You just basically sign up, and then you get welcomed by a really, really cool group of people. So super fun. Anyone? Oh, go ahead.
No, I got to follow up with Brad.
Brad, you are a popular guy.
He's a man.
Slack is full right now. I'm just kidding. So it's open to anyone. All you have to do is email me, hello@penac.com. I do have to send the invites manually, but anyone's free to just email me. I'll shoot you over an invite, and we'd love to have you.
Okay, awesome. And back to you, Brendan. How do I join the Atlas Discord?
Awesome. Yeah, so like I said, we have links in all of our bios. Some of the links are set to expire after a certain amount of time to prevent like spam and whatnot. So if the link is for some reason expired and we didn't update it in time, just reach out to us on any of our platforms and we'll direct message you the link.
All right. I got another one. What's an ink you are all excited about right now?
You all gave it to me because neither one of you have an answer.
We've been talking. We need a break.
All of them.
All of them. And ink.
I know what to say.
See, I try to come up with like the real answer. Though.
You want me to go?
I want you to go because I need to give it a minute.
Platinum Chokuro. So
It's a fantastic ink.
it's a very interesting ink. It's an ink that I've thought a lot about, and I think you have to think a lot about it if you're purchasing it. I've gotten more feedback on the ink. So what it is, for those who don't know, it's not only the blackest black ink you can buy, it's a pigmented permanent waterproof ink that can be a little bit aggressive on your pen. So you have to kind of behave and have good maintenance, fountain pen maintenance when you're using it. But it's shockingly good from a fountain pen nib, and I wasn't sure that was going to be the case. And it is, and the feedback I get on it is that it is. And I'm kind of surprised, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it's a fantastic ink, and there's been a lot of hype about it, since it's pretty new still. Released only a couple months ago. So I would say for me, any Wearing Goal or Ferris Wheel Press releases, I'm a big fan of. I've gotten into all those fun colors, as I was mentioning earlier. Basically, it's just super collectible and super fun. And every month they release different colors, different shimmers. So I can't narrow it down to one. But you need to. You got to narrow it down to one.
I need to, but the problem is, since I'm the oldest one up here, now I have an excuse. I'll take that one. No, I don't follow the inks as much as these guys, honestly. I still favor the inks that I started with, the Waterman Blue, the Aurora Blue, which is more of a blurple, I know, but these are inks that I know are tried and true. I can clean them, and I use them, and I go through them. I still have plenty of fun, and there's a lot of inks out there. There's a lot of the Kobe inks. There's a lot of the Sailor inks that, I love very much. But I'm old school. So I'm going to call out and give a shout out to Aurora Blue, the tried and true.
Classic. We use a lot of Aurora Blue when we dip test pens for people in the shop. It's between that and Waterman. They're just such classic, well-behaved inks. So excellent choice. Boring, but excellent.
Boring, but solid.
I was actually going to say pick an ink that's not Aurora, and you still failed.
Still failed. Well, how about which mic? We're like scooching mics.
Brad and I are on top
all
of
right,
it
a
right
non-Aurora Blue, though, the next is the Waterman. Florida Blue. We're going to call it the old school name. It's Florida Blue. One of the greatest inks on the planet.
And if you guys are looking for a unique color that we haven't really talked about much on our side at Atlas, we did release an exclusive Colorverse ink that I've been a big fan of called Wolf Point. Are any of you familiar with Wolf Point? I mean, a lot of you are local here to Chicago, so a couple of you are. So basically, it's where the river intersects and crosses here in the loop, because, you got the lake on the east side, and then it goes west, and then it cuts north and south. And we worked with Colorverse and the Gillettes at Luxury Brands of America to produce a Wolf Point ink. And basically, the color was supposed to be the color of the river. But when they sent us all the swatches, and then we looked at the Chicago River, we realized it's much more green than it is blue. So the ink is like a teal, starts off as a teal, and then it dries green, and then it's got some silver shimmer in it. And I always like to say, when we include like shimmer or whatnot, or like acrylic and custom pens that we do, I like to think of it as like reflections off the buildings, and it's pretty cool. You can see the river reflect off the buildings as well as the buildings reflect off the water. So it's super fun. But Colorverse Wolf Point, we haven't really given it a lot of attention, but we'll make sure to do so. It's kind of an under the radar ink, I'd suggest. So check it out if you guys get a chance. Cool.
So we got some more. How do you feel about all of the limited edition pens and inks that are going to be released? Any brands releasing them?
So the question was, how do we feel about the brands constantly releasing new special or limited editions monthly? I think all three of us might have a different perspective on that, to be quite honest. I don't know if one of you guys would like to start first. So I absolutely love it. I'm going to tell you that. I think it's awesome when new inventory comes in.
You did not want me to go first.
Yeah. But I'm assuming, from a customer's perspective, it can be very challenging to keep up with and can be overwhelming. Just when you are set on, getting this pen, the next one's already coming out. And I can understand why that might overwhelm you in a sense. So for us, we try to allocate properly and, let the crowd know, hey, this is what's out there. Something my brother Brian does. Let's give him a quick shout out, doing all the hard work behind the scenes. he is the one that uploads all of the items that are coming soon to Atlas. And a lot of times there's an opportunity to pre-order it or sign up for restock notification. So when it's in, you are emailed and hey, it's available. But what that does, being so on top of it, is it gives you guys a ton of time to realize, hey, this is what's coming out. Here's what's already out I can buy now. Here's what's coming out, maybe in the next month or so. It gives you time to prepare, which I think is a cool feature of the website. So, yeah.
I'm going to give my answer because mine is short and sweet. And I can tell you from a distributor and a manufacturing point of view. Are you ready for the big answer? Why is there a new release every month? Because the reality is newness sells. People want to see what's new. They want to see what's exciting. They want to see what's next, right? And that's the hard facts from my side, Brad's point of view.
No, I mean, it's not dissimilar. Like, I clearly love limited special inks, pens, anything I can buy to mark an occasion, to visit a shop and pick up their special products. My worry is twofold. Is that we overwhelm the consumer, right? And I think there's a balance that can be had. And also that we overwhelm the retailer who has to continually put their time and effort and dollars into the inventory that hasn't moved out from the previous limited edition. So I think my perspective is obviously coming from a different place. I think we're still in a pretty decent spot. It does get to be a lot, admittedly. Someone who talks about this stuff every week and covers a lot of this, I think about this topic a lot. And it's a topic that is not going to go away anytime soon. And I just really think there is a balance that can be had. And I don't know. It's definitely a be careful from a consumer perspective and a little bit of worry from a retailer perspective from the manufacturers and distributors. So I'm not saying anything that these guys that I haven't discussed with these guys before. So yeah.
Excellent question. Before we go back to the online questions, yeah.
What's your most recent fountain pen acquisition?
We have this.
No. Goes first.
No. We talked about this last night.
Oh, okay. Well,
And I'm trying to think of my answer.
yeah, my most recent fountain pen acquisition, and I got to be completely transparent. I rarely get pens because I have access to so many, so it's got to be very unique, or sometimes it's gifted, right? But I own literally the greatest pen of all time, and it was a one of one made by the Edison Pen Company, and it is legit a football. So it's got the cap, or like half of it is like the actual football with the laces, and then the other half is green with like the yard markers. And most people probably don't care about football, but our family is huge football fans, and sadly we are Bears fans and we get devastated every Sunday. But let me tell you, that pen was made for me, and when I talked to him about getting it, he's like, great, this is exactly why I made it. So boom, the football pen. I got it at the Chicago Pen Show, and I haven't gotten one since, but I try to do one like yearly, or maybe a couple yearly, so because otherwise I turn into Brad, and you got a couple hundred on your collection.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens fast too.
All right, I'll go next. So I had to be reminded. So I know my last acquisition was actually the U.S. exclusive, the Pilot 743 Green.
Yeah,
really nice. Fine nib. Perfect. Beautiful pen. Really well done.
Excellent. Nice choice.
So does it count if I'm about to buy it in the next hour? I can't pass up that. Speaking of limited special editions, right? It's like you can't avoid it. That the Otto Hoot Design 03 Orange Violet will be coming home from this shop with me today. So that will be the most current answer I can give. So that's a cool pen. And I'm not saying that just because Carrie's sitting in here and I'm buying it from Brendan, but I was going to get it regardless.
That pen is really
size.
cool. Yeah.
Extra fine.
Extra fine. Excellent. Fantastic question. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
So, in terms of manufacturing and purchasing and distributing, over the next few years you plan ahead, I assume. And how do you make those decisions on where you're taking manufacturing and like what product you're bringing in, and what you're going to critique?
Yeah. So the question was basically, how do you plan, years down the line, what you'll manufacture or produce, and you have that perspective. And then for us as a retailer, how do we forecast, or what do we do in terms of purchasing? I think you should give your perspective first, and then I'll give our perspective.
All right. So from my side, we do what we've always done, and with Kenro Industries, where I work. So we go, and everybody knows this. We go to all the pen shows. We come to retailers like here. We go to different kinds of events out there to meet people like you, people that are watching, and people that are in the audience, and you get to see us in person. And we get to listen to, and we do listen and take very seriously what you say, what you like, what you don't like, what you like to see, the colors, the patterns, the materials. And we kind of take all that, and it helps us come up with a plan of where we feel we need to go, materials we need to source, different product lines, different shapes. I mean, the nib sizes. When we're ordering nibs, like in the beginning, we may have ordered a lot of mediums. Do you know that the fine is now the new medium? We're selling more fines than we are mediums. It's just how it is. Things change. So we watch that, but we watch it by interacting with the end user all the time. Now, I'm a huge nerd and a big end user, but my opinion isn't the only one that needs to count. I need to hear what everybody else is doing. That's why even when we're at the pen shows, we're doing meetups after the pen show. You go to a pen show after dark, they say, and everybody gets to the bar and they hang out and they pull out, and I listen to what they say. And it's not just me, it's other people that are there. And we kind of navigate that way to find what the consumer needs. Because this guy is kind of like stuck with what I have to offer. And if I don't offer him what you're looking for, then he's going to go somewhere else. So it's beneficial for me to hear the truth of what you really want so that we can make it.
Yeah, I think the market insight is incredibly valuable, and that is a large portion on how these guys figure out what to produce next. For us as a retailer, if we carry your products, we're honestly just going to support you with whatever comes out. Very rarely will we say, hey, you know what, we're probably going to pass on that, unless it's like, super expensive, limited edition, and it's, a little over the top or whatnot. But for example, when Kenro presents something new, or like Schaefer, since we have a great relationship with Carrie and the whole team at Kenro, we're going to support in any way we can. And we'll bring in the products, and we do our best to do it justice as well. Posting on social media, making sure we showcase it in the shop, give it some display space. But, that's just because we want to make sure that our business relationship, continues to grow in the right direction, and that there's mutual support. If we ever need something, or we say, hey, this isn't moving as well as we had hoped, well, okay, there's something we can work out. Maybe we can do this or this. So that's really the big perspective for us is, showing support, and, making sure that we keep moving forward. So excellent question. I love that one. Yeah.
I've got a two-parter about pen shows.
Mm-hmm.
So you've all mentioned pen shows a couple of times. I went to the San Francisco Pen Show earlier this year, and it was an absolute madhouse. Just insane in a good way. And I know Brad, at least, probably all of you have been going to pen shows for a long time. What was the pen show experience like when you first started going, however long ago that was, compared to how it is now? Because it seems like that's really blown up as far as the number of pen shows and how excited people are about it.
So the question was, what has basically changed from the first time we've attended a pen show versus how we feel about the pen shows now? All three of us are going to have different answers. Carrie probably, I don't know how many pen shows you go to.
It's been about a few a year, not as many as him.
I know Carrie goes to quite a few of them because he's spending. We only typically do the Chicago show, so that's really the only insight we have in terms of pen shows. But yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, so I'll go to about 4 or 5 a year since 2012-ish. I don't know. Then I was just starting the Atlanta show back then, and this is a great question because we actually talked about this at dinner last night on how we see the shows changing to where it's the same group of people traveling to these small regional shows, and just kind of whoever was at one show is going to be at the next show, and then a month from now at the next show. And now we're starting to see a few more retailers, a lot more makers, individual small makers, a lot more local participation in, say, like a Chicago show, having a local, not just from an Atlas perspective, but from like a small maker perspective or an outside of the stationary world perspective. Like one of our favorite things, all of us that go to a lot of shows, we go to Baltimore or DC. They have a great chocolate maker that comes, and we all end up buying chocolate from them. So getting these alternative experiences outside of what we came for has been the biggest change that I've seen, to where I go into a show and I can find all the pens and inks that I want, and those expectations are always met. But the real bonus is to all the extras, right? Seeing a small maker for the first time, seeing a class at a show that I've never even considered to be at a pen show, right? All those little small extra events, pen shows after dark, things like that, that make for a total experience of a show has changed probably like in just really like past 5 or 6 years. Like when we started doing, we did some live podcasts at the Atlanta Pen Show to start. No one was doing anything like that. Like, and we would only do it once a year because it's like a big ordeal. But now you start to get to see other shows or bringing in people to give people other things to do off the show floor. And we've really seen that change over the past, I'd say probably 5 or 6 years, probably like 2018, 2019, things started going. And now since the pandemic's ended and travel started back up and we have a full schedule, I think it's just even blown up more from there.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with everything Brad said on that, because the pen shows have definitely taken a different dynamic in what is offered at the shows, what you can do at the shows. And I think the best way to kind of surmise that, the shows are now anticipating being a destination show. So the Orlando Pen Show is a great example. So the Orlando Pen Show is at a good time of the year. He gets a good hotel rate. That hotel rate is good for a week. The show is 2 days, but the hotel rate is good for a week. So people come in with their families and they're in Orlando. Disney, right? Okay, so now you've got this $120 a night hotel that's a resort near Disney. You're at the Pen Show. And on top of it, the icing is that Pen Show offers everything Brad's talking about. They offer classes. They offer meetups after dark. They offer everything to make it a destination. And that's what they're trying to do. Just like San Francisco is making it a destination by offering or having people come in from across the world. They're having makers come in from Japan that you just aren't going to see, from Australia. And you get to meet the people behind the scenes. That's what's enticing. That's what's changed. Because back in the day, and I'll say it again, it was, a bunch of guys hanging out in their fishing vests. And I'm not making fun of them because those guys are what started the pen show.
The OGs.
The OGs that we pick on a little bit, but we carefully pick on them. Started it. These are guys that used to hang out in hotel rooms to trade pens with each other. Suddenly they migrated to the lobby. Suddenly from the lobby, they had a showroom. And they invited friends and let's set up a table. And it went from that to what we have today. So everything that those guys in the fishing vest did created a tsunami of shows. There's 14, 15 shows. I think they're making 15 shows in the U.S. now. It's a lot. Yeah. And they're all gearing towards the end user enjoying it and making the community stronger by bringing them together.
So the short version is I can get this anywhere. I can't get this anywhere.
Right.
And this is what's important to me. Whew. Now we're going to get in trouble.
Yeah, now we are going to get in trouble.
I'll answer for Carrie. We actually talked about this last night. The San Francisco Pen Show is my favorite pen show. It's important to me because I'm very much into Japanese stationery, and you get that easier travel, and you get a different set of vendors than I do like in DC, right? So then shout out to Atlanta, my home show, which is like a small show, but it's got a good vibe. It's real cool. So those are probably my two favorite.
Yeah, San Fran would come in first. It just hits it on all marks. It's run by pen enthusiasts. Not that the others aren't, but this is like a pen club that just got it right, and they just bring them in, and people are anxious to come. So, what are you going to say?
Well, we didn't say Chicago, and now we have to walk out this door.
Chicago has, I think, is it still the only show that has bourbon tasting on Friday night?
I think it's
I think it may be whiskey tasting on Friday night.
It's also the only show that Atlas exhibits at. So
Yeah, and so
There you go.
Yeah.
It's the only
shout out Chicago show.
shout out Chicago. You know, building off that though, that's what we try to do here. Is we don't want the Atlas experience to simply be transactional. That's why when we have events like this, we want everyone to have a comfort space that they can come to and hang out and, you know, attend maybe seminars or a podcast session like this, meet other people, special guests, individuals like Carrie who manufacture and distribute, right? Or influencers like Brad. And that's a big goal of ours, is to have that environment here where you can attend in person or live stream it, you know, if you're watching it digitally. So great points. I'm shocked you guys didn't say Chicago. I'm not offended. Don't worry. It is
Oh,
what
man.
it is.
I tried to cover us.
We know who's paying the bill for the end of the night.
That's where we met, man. That's where we met, actually, both of you.
Both
Yep.
of us did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
fun. Okay, Brad, what do you got there? What were you showing off?
Oh, this was the pen I'm leaving with. So this is
Gotcha.
the Auto Hut Design 03 Auto Hut Design 03 orange violet or violet orange. Did we decide yet?
We didn't decide.
Yeah. So, but very very fun pen this is my next pen I'm leaving with. So yeah, it's very it's
a
very
fun pen.
purpley and orange. So which is right up my alley.
Super cool.
Brian, is that the Design 03? I know we have them here, but are they on our website yet?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
Yeah.
brand new.
coming onto our website soon. We might be taking a nice long weekend, but maybe Monday we'll get them up.
Yep.
So, yes. Why don't we pass it around?
Yep.
No problem at all.
Can you talk about that, or you want me to?
You can talk about that.
So this is in comparison to, so the question was, how does the 03, the Design 03, which is the model number of this pen, compare to the Caran Dash 849? So the 849 is a plastic barrel fountain pen. This one is a full metal barrel pen. They're going to weigh extremely differently. They're going to feel very different in your hand. That's the primary difference. The Caran Dash is nice, lightweight, fun, great colors like this. But this has a weight that you would want to feel like before you just go in blindly. It's not overly heavy. I don't like heavy pens. This one fits my hand very well because it's narrow. It's probably narrower than the 849, but much heavier. Yeah, and the Caran Dash is faceted. Yeah, so yeah, it's got the faceted barrel. Yeah, that's got a plastic barrel on the pen. So the weight is going to be mostly the main difference.
Yes.
What's the most over-the-top pen you want to be?
Yeah.
I already got my football pen, so I'm good. Why don't we repeat the question?
Most over the top pen that we would want. I actually have a favorite that I've never acquired. The Montegrappa Pirate Pen. That pen came out and it was over the top, but it wasn't Grappa Chaos over the top, if you will.
That's my
It
choice.
was just over the top enough that it was just so cool. And I have always wanted that pen, and I think my wife would kill me, but that would definitely be it. I love that Pirate Pen, and to this day, I still look at that as a pen that I would love to acquire at some point just to have, because it's an amazing workmanship in it.
Your wife is here shaking her head at you.
Oh,
I'm telling you better not come home with that.
So my answer, and a lot of you probably already know this, and it's the aforementioned Montegrappa Chaos pen. It's because that was the most memeable pen and kind of a joke for the longest time until I got to try it, and it's legitimate. And I could not believe the transition I had in my head, my thought process about this pen. It's like, what is this? And if y'all aren't familiar with it, go look up Montegrappa Chaos pen, and you will enjoy tons of content around it. I got to try one on one of our trips to Fountain Pen Hospital in New York. A customer brought theirs in. I don't know that I'll ever own one, but I have a ton of respect for that pen. It was legitimately good. I can't believe what I'm saying. But yeah.
Brendan, I can see you making a Montegrappa like Die Hard pen, over the top.
I have no idea what the minimums are to make legendary exclusive Montegrappa high-end limited editions, but if it's not more than like 2, we'll do it. If it's like 100, might be a little tough. But yes, I would love to do something crazy like that. We'll call it the Hollywood or something.
There you go.
Excellent. I'm a big fan of David Oscarson's work, and I really enjoy the koi fish, the Nikola Tesla. Just all of his stuff is super fun for me. It's beautiful, and it's not necessarily as over the top, but I always catch myself staring at the display we have here full of his products. I know we're about an hour in. We'll probably run this maybe about 15, 20 minutes more. We have a couple questions from the YouTube live that I see. One of them is a fantastic question, and Carrie, you might be the one to answer this. Why do you think there are not as many American fountain pen creators or manufacturers? Do I see that changing in the future?
I think, well, American manufacturers, manufacturing is a really difficult process because you need all the equipment to do it, right? But I think America, and Brad attests to this too, we have bespoke makers here, and quite a few of them, and I think they're pushing the limits of design, making different acrylics and different materials that they can use and different mediums, things like that. So maybe it just shifts. Maybe it's something that just shifts throughout time. Like there's more over in Germany for the nibs right now. Why is that? Why are there more manufacturers of nibs there? But I think the tide will turn a corner really fast. I wouldn't want it to turn fast, but I've seen a lot more from our side of the pond, being at the shows, of creative, really a lot of creative people.
A lot of manufacturers of fine writing instruments and even stationery, they also produce a lot of other products outside of this industry. And in quite a few cases, the fine writing instruments are a lot smaller of a portion of their overall manufacturing business. So look at it that way. If a Japanese manufacturer is making pens, they're also making a lot of other items as well from outside. I think some of them do like medical supplies, if I'm not mistaken, or
Robotics.
Yeah, so that's really neat. But it's simply just, where can these be made? Who has the machines to do it? Who's going to pay to do it? And who's buying these companies? As Carrie mentioned, a lot of American brands have been purchased and acquired throughout the years multiple times, and then we find them being made overseas. Parker, Waterman, Schaefer, and that's just how it is. If you look at every industry, a lot of these big brands have been purchased and shifted throughout time. So, anyone have any other questions?
What's your favorite paper to write on?
That's a very subjective question, but I love it. The question was, what is your favorite paper to write on?
Yeah, all right.
Sorry, you've been slow all night, so I was just jumping to it because it's Mitsubishi bank paper for me. I am one of the few bank paper lovers. I know there's others out there, but there's some that don't like it. I don't know. It just works really well for my handwriting style, for the nibs I use, for the inks I like. And, if I'm not using Mitsubishi bank paper, I generally like anything Midori MD is usually pretty good for me.
Okay. Most used, I'll go by that. It would be Rhodia A5 dot grid. Sorry, all you lines fans out there, and graph paper. By far my favorite. Most used all the time. It's something I don't seek out. It always just finds its way in my bag. No matter where I am or where I go, I always find that. A5 dot grid Rhodia, tried and true. Never. It is.
That is what it is.
Well, that's the other half of it.
Well, that's the other half.
That's the other half.
Yeah.
Other half.
True.
Most used.
Most used. That was the other half.
So if you've ever been to our shop, you'll notice we have a pretty large Rhodia display. We keep that pretty stocked. That is probably our most sold brand of paper. But the most sold notebook is actually the Midori A5, the MD Dot. So that is like the most quantity sold unit, but in total, brand of Rhodia is our best-selling paper notebooks. Moleskine is incredibly prevalent to people outside of the fountain pen world. I'd say that's probably one of the larger notebook brands out there. But in the fountain pen world, people don't really use it because it ghosts or it bleeds. So I just want to make a public statement that not every paper made is supposed to be fountain pen friendly, and just because it's not fountain pen friendly, that doesn't mean it's bad paper.
Right.
So I know
Right.
brands get a bad rep if it doesn't retain the fountain pen ink well, but maybe it wasn't meant to, right? So I wanted to clear the air on that. Great. Any other questions? Yeah.
What's the pen that you've had the longest that you still like to use?
See?
No, I got it. No, I want it back. All right, you ready? It's the Platinum 3776 Shoji edition, which was a limited edition. It's like this translucent light blue. And the nib is a medium sub by, she only goes to North Carolina Pen Show. What's her name?
Deb Kinney.
By Deb Kenny. And she customized it for me back in 2015, I'll say. But I had the pen for a couple of years. I got it when it first came out, and I let her customize it, and I still use it. Amazing pen, amazing nib. Always love that pen. All right, you go.
So back when my fountain pen journey started, I was fortunate to have a friend that loaned me a bunch of pens, knew my style of writing, loaned me a bunch of Japanese pens. In that batch of pens were a Pilot Murex and a Pilot Custom Heritage 912 with a PO nib. So those are two very specific weird pens that someone said, I know Brad's probably going to like these. And it turns out I did. And those, I probably had those for 10 years each. Yeah. And I use them very, very regularly, easily. It is the Murex I brought with me. Yes. I show and tell the Murex pretty frequently because I talk about it so much. And I want other people to experience it because it's a very unique little pen.
Awesome. Mine is my first fountain pen I ever got, which I showed. Still works. Don't worry, guys. Going 6 years strong. Any other questions? Yes. That's a Brad question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I honestly, so I'm sorry. Yes. The question is there a writing difference between the Mayu and the Murex? And I really, really want to say yes, but there's not. I think they're very, very similar. The Murex has a slightly different shape, the way it's cut on the front end, but from the breather hole forward, I think they're identical.
Awesome. I've only seen the Mayu pen a handful of times in person. It's dope.
Yeah,
That's a sick pen.
Awesome.
So, awesome. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here. The shop still looks incredibly hectic, so I'm happy that we got a moment to step away and, get to share our thoughts and whatnot. So is there any final comments that you guys would like to present before we sign off here?
You can go.
Yeah, I just want to thank Brendan and Atlas Stationers. This has been an amazing experience. We didn't clap for them. And I just love seeing this crowd, and I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I'd like to take a minute to say happy Fountain Pen Day while we're all here.
Yeah.
And it's been 12 years now. And to celebrate and to think in my mind, like, where would this go? And this comes down to, I'll take 1 minute, I promise. So last night, Brad had me do an interview with Kimberly, All the Hobbies, and it was for a blog post. And she asked a question that nobody's really asked me before, and it had me up last night. And the question was, all the questions about fountain pen. How did you start? How did it come about? And what? But the question was, where did you envision it ever going? So when I started it, and you start a new project, where do you think it's going to go? And you don't really think about it at the time. All you know is you're on fire. You're going full force. Let's go. And I had to take a minute. And the answer was, I thought Fountain Pen Day, if it went to the forums and it was our own little clique and our own little niche, and we would celebrate. And it's incredibly surreal to be here today to know that none of what's going on right now would be going on. It was Friday. It is 4:00 in Chicago, and we'd be wrapping up, and everyone would go home, and it's the weekend. Yes, football season, let's go. But instead, the world has stopped today, and they are posting gathering, getting together. Retailers are opening their doors that they didn't do before and bringing in crowds of people in the community to hang out and just be together. And it blew my mind when she asked me that, and I thought, wow, that's where I thought it would go. In a forum, group, bunch of us just, oh, look at my new pen. And now it is way beyond that. It is global. It is just everyone across the world just getting together for it. And it's not national. It's not international. It is just Fountain Pen Day. And it's ours. It's the community. I know I hold the torch, but that's it. I hold the torch. Not a brand. Nobody. It's ours. It's communities. And you've just taken it to the point where I'm not going to be depressing, but I know now, listen, when I'm not here anymore, that this in the reality is, and as surreal as it is, this is my legacy, because this day is going to continue far after I'm gone. And I really appreciate the community embracing it, and taking it forward, and going on this journey with me. I know it's been fun, and I know it's a thing, but it's great to be in this thing with all of you. A lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, let's give it up for Carrie for all the hard work and making this all possible, holding the torch and allowing all of us to, get close to the flame. So super fun. Big thanks to both of you guys for, doing this with us. Really cool to try something new and have such great special guests. So please give it up one more time for Brad and Carrie. We're going to clap a lot right here. Please give it up for yourselves for attending and being super cool and a great crowd. And then lastly, I just want to give a big shout out to the Atlas team for always holding it down. Our team just does a fantastic job. Even when it gets overwhelming, they keep their heads down and push to take care of everyone that comes into the retail store, everyone that purchases online. I promise you the order queue to ship out is incredibly large, and there's a lot of people in the shop. So I just wanted to give a big shout out and thanks to our team that make this all possible. But yeah, you guys, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and happy Fountain Pen Day. And we'll sign it off with the official. Y'all know the drill. Stay smooth.
Peace.
You want to grab my